What is up, Critics? In this video I'm going to be giving a guide for this week's normal time trial, RC Bandito time trial, and the premium race for this week, totaling over $300,000. Remember, at the time trial, it's going to be completed once a week for the full $100,000 payout. The premium race, however, can be completed in a limited amount of times with a 48-minute cooldown between each win. Also keep in mind that rocket-powered / flying vehicles cannot be used in time trials. So, starting off with the time trial this week, which is Vinewood Hills, I highly recommend either the Shotaro, Hakachu Drag, Batty 801, Emerus, Krieger, or an open wheel car for this time trial. However, this time trial does give a good bit of extra time, so there's a lot of other vehicles you can complete it with as well. Now, in terms of route, this one is pretty tricky, and there are a few different routes and shortcuts you can complete it with depending on what vehicle you're using. In this video, we're going to be using this route here. Now, the hardest part of this time trial is by far avoiding the traffic. It is very annoying in this specific one. As you're going through the Vinewood Hills and going through certain corners and blind corners, you can get easily surprised by certain vehicles in the corners. But as always, I will be attempting to use either the casino podium vehicle or the prize ride of the current event week on these time trials if they're quick enough to complete them. So for this event week, we have the ZR350 as the prize ride and the Vision on the casino podium. Now, the ZR350 is a bit slow for this one, and the handling isn't all that great for these intense corners in the hills, so I'll be using the Vision for this time trial due to its good speed and pretty good handling as well.
Bruh. Bruh.
Moving on to this week's RC Bandito time trial, which is Cypress Flats. As always, you need to own an RC Bandito in order to participate in these. Now, this one is pretty difficult if you've never done it before because it has a mix of low speed tight corners and high speed tight corners as well. And on top of that, you have to avoid the traffic when going through certain intersections. So the biggest tip I can give for this one is to just take it slow, because it can get very frustrating if you're trying to go into every single corner with too much speed. Remember that for most of the corners in general for this time trial, I just let off that throttle, let it roll through the corner, and it goes very, very well and consistent almost every time. If you're trying to go full speed on those corners, you will lose control of the Bandito. It will go on two wheels. It just gets very complicated. But also, when you use the brakes for the tight corners, make sure to press them at about halfway, not all the way, or you might lose control of your Bandito. And lastly, we have this week's premium race, which is Business Trip. This one is restricted to the Supercars class. I highly recommend Harley DeVest 8, Emirates, or Krieger for this race. Now this one is pretty easy for the most part, but there are some areas where people make mistakes. Now, the beginning of this race is mainly a straightaway, and you have to make sure you're staying with the group up front, getting as much slipstream as possible and not falling behind. However, once you get to this bumpy area here, you want to let off that throttle for a few seconds. If not, you will lose control and crash due to the intense bumps in that area. Now, the rest of the race is pretty corner intensive, and that's something that you might have to practice, the braking points and such, if you're not very good at taking certain corners at higher speeds. But anyways, here's my run in my fully upgraded Emirates. And that's it, guys. A normal time trial is definitely a bit tricky because of the traffic, but if you use a quick car, you should be able to beat it pretty easily due to the extra time it gives you. Now, the RC time trial is a bit tricky as well, but can be done if you let off the throttle for most of the turns. And this week's premium race might take some practice if you've never done it before. Again, remember guys, you can earn over $300,000 between the three of us week, and setting yourself to go to beat them is always a lot of fun in my personal opinion. Let me know which one you found most difficult and what vehicles you used down below in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.